I know you do, but... Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the January 9th Planning Board Workshop. Noreen, if we could start with a roll call, please.
Anthony Vaccaro.
Here.
Lisa McQuaid.
Here.
Bonnie Franson is out. James McKnight is no longer with us. Jason Sarinsky.
Present.
Jeff Manson.
Present.
And John Allegro.
Here. So with that, with five of us here, we have a quorum. Let me just start by pointing out the fire exits. The main fire exit is the door that you entered behind us, or in front of us if you're sitting on the dais. Also at the end of the hall, at the back, and down the stairs is an exit, and through the room behind us, and out towards the parking lot. If I can ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get started on projects, there's a couple of reorganization things that we need to do since it's our first meeting of the year. And before we jump into that, I just wanted to start by congratulating our former planning board member, James McKnight, who last night took his oath as our new town justice, which two out of two town justices in Monroe now have come from the planning board. With that leaves us with a open position on the planning board. The town is looking for a good candidate for that spot, so if you're interested, please refer to our website for details on how to contact the supervisor's office to express your interest in that. Thank you. Then we have to run through our appointments for the new coming year. So the first thing we need to do is appoint an acting chairman for 2020. Bonnie is not with us. She did send an email if you had a chance to catch it, and she recommended me for acting chair. Is there anyone else who's interested in putting themselves forward as acting chair in Bonnie's absence? Okay, then may I have a motion appointing Jeff Manson as the acting chair for 2020?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Can I have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Well, I'm going to abstain just to be fair. Okay, then be it resolved that the planning board hereby appoints Jeff Manson as the acting chairperson in absence of the chairwoman for the year 2020, which means we can continue our meeting because I can keep doing this. Planning board attorney. May I have a motion that the planning board appoint for 2020 the firm of Burke, Mealy, Golden, and Nunn, LLP as our planning board attorney?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Lisa. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any against?
Just wanted to
Thank you.
add that, really appreciate your work, Ashley, and hope that you are primary representative from your firm.
Thank you, appreciate that. I will remain to be.
Thank you. We also need to appoint for 2020 our planning board engineer, and we'd like to appoint McGooey Hauser Edsel Consulting Engineers as our planning board engineer for the coming year. May I have a motion?
It says in the agenda, Mark Edsel. Is that how the motion should be?
No, I had to take that out. It's the firm, not the actual individual.
The names are irrelevant, it's just the firm.
Okay, then I'll make the motion.
Thank you. A second, please.
I'll second it.
Any comments? Then let's put that to a vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, it is resolved. Next, we need to take a quick look at our schedule for the coming year. I know we had a conversation in December about when our meeting dates would be, when our technical review board meetings would be. Those would be Friday mornings, and our regular meetings, our workshops will be on Thursdays, second Thursday, or on the third Tuesday will be our regular meetings. We have a schedule of applicant submittal dates. And as we discussed in December, we've decided to move our meeting time from 7 o'clock to 7:15. So we just need to approve that now that we've got it down on paper. May I have a motion to approve all of our schedules and our meeting time?
I'll make a motion to approve the planning board meetings and technical meeting workshop schedule,
Thank you.
as noted.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. The motion carries. So let's move on to projects. We're starting with a new project tonight. Can I have the representatives for Yoel Stossel? Good evening. Hello. Please. Okay, first and foremost, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your project?
Hello, my name is Joel Strassel.
Excuse me, into the microphone. Well, the microphone is in close.
Good.
That's good.
My name is Joel Strassel. I bought a building of 501 Route 208, and I think it was a year ago. And then I decided to make this building for a medical building. And I went to the inspector, Ben, I gave him all the plans from inside. Didn't make any change outside. And he approved it, and he come all every week to check everything is okay. But I think it's happened a little mistake that when we gave him the plan, my architect, it's called Apostamos, he's very big on medical. So he recommend to close all the windows from inside, because he says it's more safe for the patients. The government don't like to come when she comes to inspection if the window shade is open. It's more private for the patient, so he recommend to close this. And so the GC, what he did, he closed everything. He closed inside, and also he closed outside by the code, everything, and then he put no siding. You can see the pictures here, how it's look now. It's much more nicer than before. And we're still planning to make bushes and everything to finish it up. It's gonna be very, very nice. So that's why Ben asked me, because he took out the windows, you should come to the planning board to approve it. This is number one. You can see I have the pictures that are attached to all the places.
Can we,
Yeah, sure.
thank you.
So it's real nice, and it's not only it's gonna come nice lights outside, and gonna be nice landscaping. It's gonna be real nice. And another thing, the medical department request disability access, wheelchair accessible. So to the second floor, I have to make a ramp. You can't see on the plan, so this has to be approved by the planning board. And it's an emergency thing because I have a lot of patients already about the building. I'm messed up with the place, and it's an important thing. I will appreciate if the board can approve it tonight. It's gonna be a big help for the community. If you hear from Dr. Zelenko, he's my medical director, and it's real busy, and we don't have the space in the other place now. So any concern would the board have, I'm ready to do. I'm here to work with you.
Okay, so just to be clear, so what we're looking at really is, there was a change in the building because of the removal of windows, and that Ben recommended that you come before the planning board because of that. And now with the addition of a ramp to access, so it's a two-story.
It's two-story, But inside the building, the square footage didn't touch, everything like before.
There's an so there's an entrance in the front, there's an entrance in the back. Those are both on the ground level, and then there'll be a ramp to the left of the front entrance.
Yeah, the ground
That'll-
level we approved, Ben approved it already
Yep.
like 6 months ago. But this ramp is now coming for approval to get this approved, yes.
Okay.
But besides this, the building is complete, it's ready to come. I think it's scheduled for Ben to come for inspection on Monday. So it's just waiting for approval for the board of this issue.
Who's coming on Monday?
Ben, the inspector,
Oh,
will come
okay.
to inspect to give the final CFO. So he told me just want me to come to the board before.
Okay. Sean, have you had a chance to review these?
We got the application, I just received the site plan tonight. So I was unaware that there was a ramp. I was under the impression that it was just architectural review. So, I don't have any technical comments because I thought it was just architectural review, but just off the cuff here, you know, we'd like to see the details of the striping and handicapped parking spot, but nothing that we can't work through. So.
We have the striping handicapped, everything is done. You can, been requested by the first floor for the CFO, so we did it already. Also plan to make new pavement, but the springtime, now it's not possible, it's winter, most of the companies are closed. So, but once the spring's coming, I make new paving, new lines, but there's lines already, for disability and everything.
But what you're suggesting is you'd like to see that on the plans?
Yeah, typically we like to see on the plans the details for the you know, for the dimensions of the parking stalls and the striping and signs and posts. Yep.
Anything in particular we should be taking into consideration, just in general, about handicap accessible ramps being added?
Generally, that's a building issue, you know, but you know, we could take a look at whatever site-wise for the application.
Okay. Ashley, any comments around this?
So for purposes of, is this on? Yeah. For purposes of seeker, it's a type 2 action. It does require referral to the Orange County Department of Planning because it's within 500 feet of the town of Blooming Grove boundary. The public hearing's discretionary. This is architectural review primarily, and then also the additional ramp. I had a couple of questions for the applicant. Was this previously a medical office building, or is that a change in use?
Just the office building, but all the buildings next to this, everything is medical.
But as far as, I'm just wondering if this building, if it's a change of use, or if it was previously offices, so it's the same use?
It's just offices, the same use.
Okay.
Not for medical, but offices, everything the same. It's but how much I didn't know exactly what the former owner did it in this place, but it was offices or medical too. I'm not sure.
Okay,
He never told me what he did there, but
the way offices are defined in the town code, it includes medical offices, so if it was offices
yeah.
or medical, it would be encompassed by that.
And I do believe it was medical, certainly at one point. I don't know if it was in the immediate prior use, but that building has been used as medical offices in the
yeah,
past.
remember Ben told me the same code
Yeah.
for both, so it's no different.
I also had a question as far as what was being added. Now, are you adding parking and additional pavement?
I have a lot of parking there. I think I have over 40 parkings.
So I think on the plan it shows some proposed parking. I was just wondering if
It's
that's...
proposed, but when I give the first time, when I give it for Ben, I give him the site plan, the parking, everything. He told me it's enough.
So Ben's already approved that? Is that...
Yes, everything. He was just concerned because I took out the windows.
Yeah, because that
Told me
triggers
everything is
the...
okay, the parking is okay, and nothing else. You checked it before.
Okay, we could confirm that with Ben, just because it was shown as proposed. We need to know if this board's approving that. Is there any signage proposed or existing?
For what? For disability? For what?
Any signs for the building?
Not yet, because I requested him last week about the signs. He told me first finish this, and then we will discuss about the signs.
So that's actually part of, because it's subject to the architectural review by this board, that sign has to be shown on the plan that this board
I
approves.
do plan to make signs, of course.
So if you could add those to the plan to show what those will look like, the location,
No
the
problem.
size.
I have a sketch already. I didn't bring it with me because nobody requested. But my sign guy make already a sketch. The
Okay.
front and the side gonna be the sign. And he told me that he checked the codes. That's gonna the maximum the size it can be. So I make it during the codes from the.
Per the code, if you could
model.
submit that, that would be
Yes.
great on the
And
plan.
he showed already for Ben. Ben told him I will come down to check, but first finish this meeting and then I will come to talk about this.
Okay,
this
yeah,
one.
this board needs the sign in order to
Okay.
take action.
Fine.
And one more question, just, the application, I think it was in your name, but the owner is actually an LLC.
Yeah.
So if you could just submit the owner's endorsement in the application paperwork, just
I'm
clarify
basically
that.
the owner. It's a LLC, but I'm the owner of the LLC.
No, I understand, but the way the application is, it has to be filled out in the name of the actual owner, and the disclosure has to be in the name of the LLC. So it's just fixing the paperwork. It
Oh, okay.
won't be. anything substantial, but that was it. So it does, again, require referral to the county.
Okay. I'll do that in the morning.
I have a question. Whose idea was it to cover the windows?
What's the idea?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not so familiar in the medical codes, but the posthumous architect, he can research, he's the biggest in the medical field. He told me, I'm planning now for Article 28. Article 28 is a code to medical. So he told me if they're gonna come down and you're gonna see the window shades is open by a patient, you can lose your license. So he recommended me, from my experience, close all the windows.
Okay,
Don't have a problem. That's why I do it. For me, it was better to not make it because it's much nicer with windows.
Right.
But he told me, listen to me, I'm experienced in this line, do this.
Now, was that the town of Monroe building inspector?
The inspector was okay with this.
Or
On the inside, yeah, when we gave it the permit, the architect wrote down the inside gonna be close. But probably Ben understand that the outside will not gonna be touched. But the GC understand different, so he closed it, he put nice
So
siding.
the windows,
see.
you can see them from the inside but not the outside?
No, as of now,
They've
no
been-
windows.
they've been
Everything's
taken out?
I take it out. It's
Okay.
yeah, complete out, like you saw in the pictures.
Okay.
And this is my question, a follow-up question that for Sean is there a fire code that would say you have to have a window for this, or, because that,
Yeah,
I don't know, this whole
that's
thing
a-
isn't sitting.
That's a
right with me.
building code issue I'm not aware of. That, I don't have a lot of experience with buildings, but that would be more of a Ben issue.
Okay.
There's a fire system in the building. You put in everything for safety.
I mean, just as like, it's a majority on it, of these offices or exam rooms are on the first floor, it'd be just, in my mind, a simple idea to just pop out a window should
Yeah, that's right. And also,
something
they
horrible
request us
happen.
to make double sheetrack for fire.
Well, and that's the
fireproof.
thing.
We did a lot of stuff to make it as safe as possible.
Absolutely, and
Ah.
as they should be.
And he was okay with covering the
Yeah,
building
no
inspector
problem. You just told
as far
me.
as emergency?
Yeah, he told me it's okay.
Okay.
Because I have two entrances in the front, the back and the front, as you see on the plan. He just told me, you took out the windows, go to the planning board. That's it. Now about the ramp, then it to come.
No, because you would think you could put a shade over the window if there's a patient.
Listen,
Yeah,
I did what
cover it.
the architect told me. He's the best in the line. You can check a posthumous. He's the top in the medical field.
Okay.
He told me all my clients I recommend this to do. It was funny for me, but I tried to do what the architect told me.
Okay.
Okay, but it sounds like what our main consideration here is in relation to architectural review and our authority to make approvals on that and recommendations. So has anyone had a chance to take a look at the photos that were provided of what's been changed? Let's take a moment to take a look at those, and then let's get some input on
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, I do. I didn't.
because I have, I think I have 5-6 copies. You can see in the front, you see gotta be nice lights in the front, nice bushes.
Ashley, given that tonight's a workshop meeting, are we allowed to approve projects?
So because it requires referral to the county, you can approve it tonight.
Yeah.
But otherwise, technically, it's a matter of this board's practice to wait until a regular meeting, but there's nothing that requires you to
All
do
right.
so.
When the property owner wants to put in bushes, will he have to go through this again for architectural review?
I will have to check that.
Yeah.
Are you planning on adding landscaping?
I wanna make it nice, sure. Not now, the springtime,
So
but
typically, it would be part of your
very
review, so
small
if that's,
bushes. Gonna be nice grass, carpet grass, small bushes.
so if you would want to do that, it would be best to do that now, unless you're gonna have to come back then with another application.
Let's have to
So
come to
if you know what you wanna put in now, it would save you
I
some
don't have a
time.
picture yet what I wanna do, but I plan to make it nice.
If you could have some kind of landscaping plan denoting what type of plant it's gonna be, or something like that.
The landscaper will give me a proposal how to do it.
If you want to be able to put the bushes in the ground in the spring, do it as soon as
But I have to
possible.
bring you in the pictures how it's gonna
Yeah.
look. Okay.
Just-
Right, we would need a plan of that, and, you know, as Ashley mentioned, the signs are all part of architectural review, so we're going to need that as well. Once we have all of those elements together, then we would be able to submit it to the county planning board. They have a 30-day time frame in which they can provide input, comments, feedback to the board, recommendations.
But everything is about the ramp, right?
Well, the main thing that we're focused on here is the architectural review because of the
Telling me
changes
if I
and
want to put
what.
bushes and landscaping, I have to provide the pictures.
Right.
No, so let me ask you something. To took off the trees, I have trees on the road which is blocking the view to my building. Is there something I have to go to the planning board to take care of, to have the permission to take care of, or
I'm sorry, what was the?
there is trees before in the front of the building which blocking the view to my building?
Okay, so you
I
want
won't
to
take off
take them
this-
down?
Yeah. Is that something I have to come to the planning board to ask for this, or?
So the town does have a tree law, and offhand, I don't know. I'd have to look and see whether that's
So I didn't touch it yet
something.
because I want to.
Typically, if you have a site plan before the board, then you would, any type of trees you want to take down and anything you want to plant, you would put that all on the plan, so.
Landscaping plan, yeah.
Okay, I will prepare it.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
And then if we are going to be getting additional information, may need to wait to refer it to the county.
Right.
So the
Right,
sooner
we
you
have a
get
full
the,
package.
once you get this additional information in, then Noreen could send it to the county for their review right away, but we will need
So I
that.
bring it to you, you send it to the county?
Yes,
Yes.
the
Yeah, we
town send
submit
it to the county.
Okay, but as of now, the ramp is not a problem to open the building, meaning once you approve the windows, then our band are able to give me a CFO. Because every day it's not open, I'm losing a lot of money. Everything is ready. I spent on this building $1.4 million. So it's, for me, if it's pushed it another week, another month, it's killing me. So I appreciate, I can make subject to this, to everything required, but
We can't approve a plan until we've done, because, okay, so the way the law is, if your building, if your location is within certain distance, 500 feet from various things, including a municipal border, and yours is within 500 feet of the border between Monroe and Blooming Grove,
Okay.
it must be submitted to the county planning board, and they have to have that opportunity to weigh in on the plan.
this is
Before we can make a
regarding
decision.
The ramp, you mean?
This is,
General?
Regarding the whole.
this is the
What
whole
about the
plan.
windows?
This would be the windows, the ramp, the signage, the landscaping,
Yeah,
all
any
of
type
those elements,
approval,
right?
exactly.
Okay, I will not touch everything, just about the windows. It's not something you can pass now?
No, that still needs to go. So if
Right.
that's all you want to do at this point, and you don't want to,
I do want to do it, I will add you the information, but I don't want Ben should tell me you can't give me CFO until the next meeting.
it will take, so when
I will
they-
not touch everything, I will not do anything before you approve it.
so even if this board can't, legally, they can't act until it gets referred to the county, and the county has to have then at least 30 days to offer
Even
a
about, even
response.
only about the windows?
Any type of approval. So
Wow.
unfortunately, that's just how the law is, so they really can't do anything to avoid that. So if you just want this plan that you submitted tonight to go to the county, then they could do that, but if you're going to be adding other elements, then in the future, they're going to require additional approvals.
So we'll have to wait till the next meeting?
That's
Whenever
gonna
it goes
depend,
to the
that's gonna
county.
depend on when you have the
I will make-
updated
I will
plans
make
to
it
us, right?
tomorrow, If it's
Yeah.
help.
Right, the sooner we get that in, the sooner we can refer it, correct, Noreen?
Yeah, if I get the landscape in and the
Signage.
signage and the landscape, if you give me all those plans with what I have here, I can get it out to the county, and then they have 30 days to give me an answer.
And how about if I'm not making now signage landscaping, what is then? It's different, it's gonna be.
It's
You'd have to go
Still
through
has
it
to go
again.
to the
Supposed to go to the
Yeah,
county.
You'll be right back here later with another application.
And another review to the county.
Okay,
So-
maybe it's worth for me because I thought every
Yeah.
day the building is
Yeah.
closed. I have a big waste of money. It's rather to spend for me $2,000-3,000 for a meeting here than to lose thousands every day. You know, it's got mortgages and interest. You know how business is going.
Absolutely. So I think it's important for us to explore the architectural review portion of this application as fully as possible before we're submitting this up to the county. We have to know that that our questions have been answered, that we're comfortable with the changes that have been made to the building, any of the appearance issues that we have to possibly address. So, does anyone have any questions, any comments for the applicant around what we're seeing in the changes in the building, the removal of the windows, the addition of the ramp?
As long as the building inspector is okay with it, I don't object.
Does the ramp take up any parking spaces?
No, not right now.
It's just all on the lawn and then it goes
It's gonna
directly
be
from...
just on the grass.
Yeah,
And do you have to do a curb cut?
You know,
It doesn't appear to be modifying any parking spaces.
Do you have to do a curb cut?
For ADA, I believe they would have to.
It finishes before the sidewalk.
so we're not gonna touch anything, just on the
So
grass.
we have two curb cuts on both sides.
Do they show on the photos?
Right, there's going to be, but there is not currently, a sidewalk that runs in front of the whole building.
Yes.
There's a curb cut in front of the main entrance, and a curb cut to the left, more where the larger part of the parking lot is, kind of down below the
Got to
building.
bring a
Then there's-
picture
then
from the
there's
whole
another-
parking, but it's a nice.
There's another
Yeah, it is. So the ramp would essentially be, this is the main entrance, and then
The
along
left of
this
this,
wall,
on
and it's
the
gonna lead up,
grass.
and then you're gonna put in the ramp and add a door.
Yeah, that's it. yeah.
Will the
Not touching the
door,
parking, not touching anything.
And how's the ramp going to be constructed?
out of treated wood.
do we have a view of what the existing main entrance is, and would the entrance at the top of the ramp be matching that?
We're gonna make it matching.
It's gonna be the
Yeah.
matching to the existing,
The existing is more in front of the building. Then
Yep.
there's a cut in.
We're gonna have
then
two
there's-
entrances.
yeah.
It's
But we're
it's
gonna
far
work,
in.
of course, gonna work to make it the same.
And the main
It's
entrance
nicer.
is not the top floor level. It's like
Right.
a bi-level. Like you enter, you have steps down,
Mm-hmm.
then you have steps up.
So how will the person who needs the ramp get down the steps?
We constructed a ramp in the basement. if
And then
you
there's
see
an
it, that's-
elevator once you get
No,
inside?
that's why we have two.
This is the,
Oh,
this
two
is,
ramps.
right, there's a ramp
We have
from
one
the
ramp,
side.
which is done already, which was approved by Ben
Okay.
Yes, yeah, that,
last year. And
so
then
that
there's a new
ramp, along the left side of the building in the front,
Yeah.
you'll see there's a ramp that leads down, that takes you into an entrance on the bottom part of the bi-level portion of the building. And then the new ramp will take you up to the upper floor above that, and will come in to the right of where that ramp goes into the basement. We don't have a picture of the main entrance in front of us. Are the existing doors, at least I don't think I do.
So this is the back of the building?
That is the back of the building.
And do we have pictures?
No, that is the side of
this
the
side,
building.
this corner.
This is the side of the building that faces the road.
Can I show you, please?
Yeah, please, that's great.
This is the front of the building, as of now.
Right,
So this is the ramp to the first floor, this is the front, the ramp gonna be here in the left
yeah.
side.
What I'm wondering is, what does the existing doorway entrance look like? Like on the plans,
Glass, double glass doors, just
It's a
black
double door, glass doors,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have a single
part of
glass
this.
door at the top of the ramp.
Yes,
Okay.
correct, yeah.
Yep, that,
See if I have a clear picture. Oh, you see it? Here you see a clear picture.
oh, yeah,
Sorry.
I missed that one.
Yeah, this
Okay.
picture, and then the side of it, it's gonna
Is,
be a ramp.
and it's gonna be a
door.
single door.
Yeah, that's the way.
The
ramp You wanna
goes
see
down
it?
below grade, sir?
I don't think so. Where the bottom
This
line.
one goes down, downhill. You're gonna put a ramp downhill.
No, the ramp gonna be here on this side, after this door on this side. Just up, 2 lines, because they have to be level,
So on this
I think
picture,
every 2
here's the
foot,
existing
1
So
inch.
it's a very shallow ramp. Here. You're going into these doors.
Oh, the ramp gonna be here.
Looks like it's the ramp.
See?
Okay.
You talking about the new
This is
ramp?
the regular door,
Yes, sir.
and then here gonna be the ramp. So the door gonna be here at the top. Here the steps inside to go up to the second floor. So we make a ramp outside, and the door gonna be right the way after the steps on the top.
So I look at this drawing here, over
They're coming
here,
out from the front.
and this says it's going down.
Okay, this is the first floor, this is not the top.
That's not the same.
See here?
That's this ramp that already exists.
This
Yeah.
exists, and I drove it.
That's a ramp that
But now you
leads
see
back.
this?
Yes.
This is the new ramp. Gonna be here, and then you come up here.
Okay.
You have to go this way, otherwise it's not.
I didn't
yeah,
understand
it's
it.
not
Okay.
yeah.
Wow. That's gonna be a long ramp.
Right, so the ramp, because of the space that you have, because of the requirements on the pitch of the ramp, it goes up to the building, makes a turn, comes away from the building, and then you will
That's right,
turn
it has
up.
to be level,
Right,
but the
so,
codes
so it'll be 3 segments
Yeah, yeah,
linked
yeah.
together by turn.
Everything on the grass, not touching the parking, it's nothing.
Right, and it's gonna empty out at the bottom onto this new sidewalk. Any comments, questions about the appearance of the building now that the windows have been removed?
Did you look at any alternatives?
What do you say?
I'm sorry, did you investigate any alternatives to pulling the windows out?
I'm not the expert. I do what the expert tell me. I took a poster special for medical. So he I did everything what he recommended me. That's why I did this. I asked him several times, not so nice. But he told me, listen, I was not so happy with it, but he told me, listen, you finish with night siding, that'll be very nice. And I plan to put nice lights outside. So it's gonna be a real nice. You can come at night, even now it's very nice. I have a lot of lights there working already. It's looked like a beautiful hotel or something like this. It's real nice.
Hotel
So
with
that's
no
Arthur
windows.
Gallagher?
It's not allowed in a hotel, but it's looked like a hotel.
Are you adding lights, did you say? Or,
Yeah.
because that's something that this board would have to
A lot of
review as
lights
part
is
of
there
the...
already. You can't see it from the picture because only at night. It's under the gutter, but it's working. But on the side of the building, you can see here 4 electric blocks, which is planned to be there like chandeliers.
Do I
Consensus.
need a light
Okay.
switch too?
If you're adding any new lights, that needs to be shown on the
On the-
plan.
Okay. Before I will put it, I will bring this in for the plan.
Also, the way that I'm looking at the plans, it appears as if the plans show as if the windows are still there.
That's
So-
why I asked me to bring pictures
Yeah.
how it's looked now without the windows.
I would think, though, that we would need the plans updated to show that the windows are no longer there, that those are solid walls prior to, I mean, I don't know if that's something we can make conditional in a resolution, or whether it really needs to be done before we can approve the plan.
I did try to
Since
get
we're,
it. Sorry.
Yeah, it's unique because it's the
because it's
architectural review, so
we have a little, it's not as,
so if you don't sign the plan, then it would probably be okay not, but if you're gonna be approving other elements, then it should be accurate as to what's there, yeah. So, if
So
we're
with-
gonna be
so with
revising
the-
and submitting
with the addition of the
landscaping.
ramp, with the lights going on, possibly looking at the signage and the landscape at this point, then the
Then if they're
then the
good-
window should go
exactly,
on the
exactly.
plan.
So regular signage in general have to go to the planning board? It's not something that belongs to the inspector?
It comes under architectural review as well. So, yes, there are the guidelines for the sizing of the things, but when it comes to appearance, the town board has delegated the appearance of buildings to us as, we serve both as the planning board and the architectural review board for the town. So in this case, yes.
So what do I have to do to bring you as soon as possible?
So where there are windows indicated in the plan, where there are no longer windows, that should be changed to reflect that they're solid walls.
So the plan should says no
Right.
windows, okay?
Right. The lights that are being added need to be added onto the plans.
Yeah, picture
And
of those.
it's
Yeah,
our
the
recommend,
fixture, whatever fixture
Right.
it is, and the details
Okay.
about that.
What else?
and I would say it would be our recommendation to get us the signs, add the signs onto the building, get us the sketch of that,
Okay.
as well as the landscaping, so we can take care of this all for you, so that this doesn't become an ongoing process for you. We can get the whole thing, take a look at it, submit it up to the county, get their feedback, and move forward on this.
And to take off the trees, also I have to bring you in the plan, or?
That's,
So the trees are on your property and
My
they're,
property, yes. Just blocking the nice view from the 208.
yeah.
So it's a waste for me,
Couldn't that
put
be
so much
submitted with
money,
the
I want people should see it.
landscaping?
it
How
it could
many
definitely,
trees?
it should be part of the landscaping plan, but
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just,
Yeah.
if you look in the town code, there's a tree law. I just don't know whether there's anything additional that's,
Okay, once I bring everything, do I have to wait another time for the next meeting, or are we gonna take care of the offices from
Well,
this?
again, so once you've submitted the updated plans to us, we will send it to the county. As soon as we have their answer, or 30 days have reviewed and we haven't received an answer,
Okay.
then we can look at taking action. Correct.
Okay, appreciate that.
Do I have that correct, Ashley? Is that's our process at this
yes, as
point?
far as the waiting for the county, yes. So it's really gonna be dependent on them. So the quicker it gets referred to them, the quicker,
I'm trying to get it on Monday, hope so.
Our Conservation Commission, I think, has a point to make.
Ward, is there anything from a Conservation Commission standpoint in relation to the comment about removing trees that might be,
It would be wise to contact Ben. Ben actually is the enforcer of the tree code, and we get referred to, but I mean, Ben would know the answer.
I never
Right,
asked them.
right, and you're meeting with him on Monday, right,
I just want to get the CFO, this is number 2, it's not an emergency.
right. Okay, I mean, if there are no other questions at this point, I think we have our course of action, and we're looking forward to your next submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Good luck.
While we're changing over our plans, I'd like to bring up Harriman Business Park. Okay, so I know we have some updated plans based on our conversations last time we met. If you'd like to bring us through the changes and get us up to speed.
Should I introduce myself again?
Yes, please.
Please.
George Lithgow, Chicowitz and Gubitz, attorney for the project. With me are Kristen Green, the project representative, and Nate Burns from Langen Engineering, the engineer on the project. So briefly to recap, I had the pleasure of, well, that's a slight exaggeration, but I did look at the video last night, and we were asked to do several things. And the first was to provide consents from the sewer district and the village of Harriman. The sewer district does have an easement through there. They did consent. I provided that to your engineer and your attorney, and a copy to Noreen for the file. The village of Harriman sent a letter, even though they have only it's only a service line that goes into Target. They have some potential to do repairs if everything else fails, so they did ask that we agree that we would be responsible for restoring any improvements that are constructed in that area, and we have done that for both the sewer district and the village of Harriman.
And we have the copy of that for the village of Harriman as well?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you.
There is a letter which I sent to everyone. The second thing we're asked to do, or actually which was discussed at the meeting, and I noticed it wasn't resolved, the question of signage on the building. There are signs shown on the Rosenbaum Design Group plan submitted in September. There's basically signage at each side of the corner near the parking lot. So it's possible that a tenant will construct the sign in that location. It's possible we may be back to discuss different signage objectives at the time we actually have a tenant. Related to that, we had discussion about whether or not tenant option items could be revised without further ado. I think the board's sentiment is that we provide any substantial change in the tenant option items to the board for review. We will do that. We'll be back here probably for the signage too. So at such, on the happy day that we sign up a tenant, we'll be coming back for the next planning board meeting. One of the other issues that was discussed, which Nate is going to talk about, is the question about maximum occupancy and whether we could accommodate 70 seats in that space. I'll let Nate discuss that. We also were asked to look at the parking issue and memorialize it in a table. It took us a little while to go through all the plans and come up with that table, but we do have one tonight, and we can share the conclusion with you. Finally, I did have opportunity to talk today to Sean and exchange emails with Ashley. We have some proposed conditions, which basically were adapted from the prior approval for ABE. We'd like to discuss those briefly if we could, and hopefully we'll have a resolution for action at the next meeting, which I hope is going to be in January. Because there was discussion in December, but you guys didn't meet.
Correct.
So if I may...
Please.
Sure. And along with our previous submission that was submitted on the 23rd of December, we included a project narrative which goes through a list of about 9 specific items that were revised on the plans, all based on feedback of the board. I can go through those individually if needed. It may be the best and just kind of read through them, and if there are any questions, we can discuss them at that point. I have a sheet LS-101 opened in the plan set, which portrays most of these revisions, I think, in a pretty easy, kind of one-stop place to see.
What was that plan?
LS-101.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. The first revision, and as I said, indicated these were all revisions based on feedback or requests of the planning board. We showed the potential facade signage locations on the plan at either corner of the building. And as Mr. Lithgow stated, at the point when there's a tenant, we'll have to come back in to resolve any details, additional details on that. But we've showed the potential sign locations that correlate where they were shown on the architectural drawings. We showed the actual 70 seats within the seating area to confirm that, yes, we can actually fit 70 seats within the seating area. The area of the fire pit has been noted that if it's not constructed, a note has been added that it'll be a continuation of the pavers around it. The cafe tables have been removed from the public non-tenant space and replaced with benches. We've added a note to the lawn area within the tenant space that basically allows flexibility for that to be decorative gravel as opposed to lawn or vice versa, based on tenant requirements. We've added notes to the outdoor patio notes, first indicating that the tenant should provide an occupancy plan for outdoor seating to the code enforcement officer. We've also added that surface improvements within the tenant area shouldn't be able to change without prior planning board approval. We've also added a note that revises the calculations for parking associated with the outdoor area. Based on conversation, with our team and with your attorney, we've actually revised those notes, and I have a memorandum that I can pass around that has some additional discussion and shows the parking calculations overall. And the light temperature for the proposed bollard lighting has been revised to be 2,700 degrees Kelvin.
Okay, yeah, then I think at this point I'd like to get some commentary from our advisors before we go through the proposed conditions, just so we can kind of talk about the elements that with the landscaping. And Sean, if you have any commentary?
Yeah, just 2 things from, I guess, that were outstanding from Mark's last comment or notes were that the improvements should be such that they can be easily removed and reinstalled should there be any necessary utility repairs needed. And the second was, I know there was talk about the street trees, or I should say the trees that are in that space now. They were going to be relocated. Just maybe a note or some kind of something to memorialize where they will be placed on site, or
Sure. The paving within the tenant space is concrete unit pavers or unit pavers of some fashion that can be pulled out and put back in.
Exactly, yeah.
And I believe we also discussed with the planning board last month that it was amenable that the trees on site be relocated with input from the EAC.
Okay. Is there a note to that effect on the plans?
I believe we added that. Let me check. If not, we'll
Okay.
certainly add a note
Sure.
to that.
Ashley?
Have you had any discussions with the EAC yet, or?
We know where one of the members is.
Yeah, I mean, if we could know where the trees are going to go between now and the next time we're here, that would be something to add, just a note on the plan. And I haven't had a chance yet to go through the proposed conditions that George had set this evening, so My only comment was the parking. I'd spoke to George a little bit about the calculation, and we'll wait to see what you have here tonight.
We're going to revise it from 66 to 70.
Okay, calculating the
Still
entire
sufficient.
space.
Yeah.
Okay, so then nothing further from, we're still waiting for county review, right?
I just checked my emails to see.
So that's the only other item.
But let me
Well,
clarify.
so
that
just
point.
before George goes, so if 30 days has passed since the county received the referral response, and this board does have jurisdiction to take action, you don't have to, but you can. You're not barred from doing so. But in any event, I haven't prepared a resolution for tonight's meeting, and we still have to go over the conditions, so I don't believe you're ready to take action tonight, but you are not barred from doing so.
So before we go over those conditions, in relation to any of the changes that have been discussed in the plans with the landscaping, any comments or questions from the board about that?
I have some
Thank you.
questions. I think I was not at the meeting that these improvements were discussed, so I don't know if this was discussed previously or not, but I had some questions about the fire pit. Is that, what kind of flammable substance will it be that produces the fire? Is that a concern of ours? I just feel that, I don't know if it's going to be lit during the day, if
I think
kids unattended or would have access to this. Is it something that is a safety concern?
we discussed the fire pit at the previous
Okay,
meeting,
I missed that.
and what the discussion was focused around then is there would be the opportunity to provide it if a tenant wanted. And at that point, anything that was provided would have to come through, I guess, a building permit for review. And, any additional restrictions at that point would be part of that. I mean, I would assume at this point that it would be a propane fire pit of some sort, because that's what's most likely to be there, and it would likely be in control of whoever the tenant would be there.
So these plans right now don't have the pit lit. It's just going to be there, and if the tenant wants to, then they'd have to come back?
It shows the option for a pit or not.
Okay.
And if there's a pit, they'll have to coordinate whatever that material is in the construction with the building department. But it also provides, and that was one of the questions that we heard last time, if there's not a pit, it'll just be a continuation of the pavers underneath.
Okay. Thank you. I have a question too. I never liked that there was no door from the front. So was there, I don't know if we discussed this or if there was a reason. It didn't seem like they had to have the door in the front, but I don't know, I just feel like everybody else's door is facing out, and access to the building, you have to go around the building to the side, and past all of these, now we have 70 seats. I know you wouldn't have to go past 70 seats, but was there a reasoning to close up the front?
I think one reason is it's going to be very narrow, and there is a desire to make efficient use of the inside with seating. So if you were to have a door in the front, you would be dividing up the seating area as you come in. You'd probably lose some seats. It seems inefficient.
Okay. And then we don't need a front door then?
So that would be really a building code, fire code issue, and as far as making sure there's proper and safe egress to the building, so that would really be something that's going to have to be reviewed again by Ben.
Okay.
I'm not aware of anything. I don't believe Sean's aware of
I believe
anything.
that's a building code issue, yeah.
But if it's there, then Ben would find it.
All right. Well, those were the two things that came to my head. Thank you.
I mean, going back to our meeting with the architect, when we were first looking at this, before we even started looking at the landscape, it goes back to, this is a small portion left of a larger space. How to creatively possibly put that to use effectively. What they did was they turned what is the front of the main building into the side of this element of the building, and so their frontage is really into the patio and into the side terrace area. Is that
The
correct?
architect was here, that's what she would have said.
I believe that is what she did say. So, I think that's where the element of, adding in possibly multiple entrances across the front, the ability, if the tenant chose, to have a garage door style to kind of open the whole space up and add flow. but just remembering what the architect's drawings were like, it was 13 feet across, if I remember correctly, Christian. It's not a big, right, so there's not a lot of opportunity to take, if you start putting multiple doors from more angles, it becomes a point where it's not usable anymore. So, or more difficultly usable. Any other comments, questions? Okay, can we hear about the conditions that you're proposing?
I will pass them out. There's 3 paragraphs that really have to,
Is it the email that you sent me?
yes.
I just handed them to the board. You were under the wire for printing today. Just.
I appreciate it. So let me run through the list real quick. Condition number 1 is the recital of the plans that you've reviewed and approved. Condition number 2 just is a simple statement that the tenant may have some changes and it'll have to get, will be dealt with.
If you could just expand on that a little bit, George. So do you mean these are things that need to come back for additional planning board approval? Or are these
Well-
things like the fire pit, if it's not going to be installed, it's going to be just pavers?
It's both of those things, and I guess what we should do is,
Distinguish between them?
well, leave it to the discretion of the building inspector to send it back to you if he doesn't feel comfortable approving it. So for instance, on the plants, we're talking about 2 options for the fire pit, and those are clear, A or B. There are some other architectural elements like the garage doors, which I think at the last meeting, the board made clear. That is a significant change. If it's something other than proposed and you do want to see it, I think the building inspector will be well aware of that. There's other minor details like lighting fixtures in one particular place, or whether the gravel or the lawn is put in the back, as we discussed at the meeting last month. That is perhaps something where the building inspector should decide if it's
Significant.
you should see, yes.
Does that make sense, Ashley?
It does. I'll be, when I prepare the resolution, I'll be modifying that somewhat, but I understand now the.
Okay.
Okay, so condition number 3 is one with a little bit of meat, because it talks about the area of the food, the outside area being 1,525 square feet, occupancy limited to 70 patrons, and it notes that the location of the tables and seats and so on are conceptual in nature, and that will be modified for sure when you get a new tenant. And then one thing that we discussed last time was the ability for the portable heaters to be used there. That's one thing that we're pretty sure somebody would, a restaurant operator would like to be able to do. So we've, I think it tracks a discussion at the meeting that the building inspector would be responsible for reviewing that. And there may be other patron amenities which are normally found in restaurants. The building inspector has the ability to make a determination it's a normal accessory use. And I'd like for those kind of patron amenities to leave it to him. So that's the way that that last sentence reads.
Do you have any examples offhand of those types of things, just so the board could get an idea of what other, I know we had discussed the heater specifically.
Hostess table, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a podium for the hostess. There's
Okay,
just,
so
you know,
typical-
you walk into restaurants,
Right.
it's a little bit different, but it's a little bit the same in some places. It's hard, though, for me to call out the kind of, if I could give you a list, I'd give you a list, but we don't know who the restaurant operator will be. You know, we've talked about maybe it's a beer garden. That's going to be a different mix than a pizza place, which we also talked about. So it's something where I think, again, you're allowing the building inspector to look at it, make determination as to whether it's a normal restaurant accessory use. And if so, I think Ben's, you know, he's going to send something up if he feels you should look at it. So condition number 4 is, it's looking at this question of the, that we discussed at the last meeting about the occupancy, whether it's reasonable and safe. And I think Mark's suggestion of allowing the building inspector to review a plan and make that determination is logical and appropriate, so I drafted it that way. And Again, Ashley may wish to tweak that a bit. Condition number 5 is just a holdover provision from the ABE resolution that you approved in September. Condition number 6 is simply requiring a mark out of water and sewer lines so everybody knows where they are, because that has been a concern in this process. Conditions 7 and 8 are again holdovers from the ABE resolution. Condition number 10 is a holdover from the resolution, and condition number 9 is the parking resolution. So, as Langen's memo points out, we've gone through the history of Harriman Business Park, the original approval, the amount of parking that was approved, was constructed, and then there have been sort of points at which that's contracted a little bit. So, for example, in 2010, there was a modification of the G1 and G2 buildings, which reduced the amount of building space that would eventually be constructed. So the parking spaces are there, but the building occupancy for that space has gone away. So that parking is what I would call unallocated or free parking, and that can be used for this purpose. There was an application approved for storage in the back of G2. There's 5,000 feet of storage space, which is only it's periodically visited by the storage tenant. But there's no occupancy, there's no customers, there's no parking, there is no need for parking. And while that might need one space for a watchman or something, I didn't really find something in the code that matched that, but I think the parking requirement is negligible. It's not retail use. It was, again, the site was parked for it as retail use, so you pick up 25 spaces there. And there is vacant space. And as far as I know, the G2 building has not been ever fully leased.
No.
So, and RD has been looking at options for it, but they're not finding any feasible options. And that means there's, again, an unallocated retail space in there, which has no tenant use, no retail use for it. And that, I think, provides unallocated parking spaces. So that occupancy, that vacant space is 11,000 feet, and basically it's 5 spaces per 1,000 feet of retail space. So you're picking up maybe 40, 50 spaces there. And then there's the retail space that was approved but no longer is approved on Pat Side I, which was approved for 66 spaces. So adding up all those spaces, we come to more than 70. We'll work out the exact.
Not to mention the land bank.
Well, the land, I thought about that after the meeting. I think the land banking may actually be included in that 1,504 space.
Okay.
Originally, I didn't think so, but I think after looking at it, it probably was included. Just to be conservative, I wanted to show you even without the land bank parking, we have adequate parking on the site for what is actually there now. So this note sort of encapsulates that 2-minute discussion into 7 or 8 months. That's it.
Board, any feedback on the proposed conditions? I have a question about number 6, and it may have been something that I missed in the discussion. When you're talking about the marking out of water and sewer lines, as the building inspector directs, is that marked out so construction can take place, or marked out in a permanent fashion so that everyone's always aware of where those are going forward?
My intent was construction, because that's the point at which you're most concerned about. It makes sense to put in some permanent markers to show the beginning and the end, so people are on the site again. Full.
I mean, I don't know what those markers typically are. I would think
Permanent marker isn't a big deal.
I would think certainly minimally, maybe at the back of the space beyond where the where the decorative fence is to divide off, just as a quick indication for people. So because you're adding now structure on top of that, I think it would be handy to be able to quickly identify, in the case of a problem, just where those lines are.
Isn't Note 6 redundant? It's a New York State dig safety law.
It is, but I feel it's belt and suspenders.
It's okay with me.
It can't-
Can't hurt.
Well, and one of the reasons is just to make sure everybody's aware this is going to happen. That, you guys were concerned about it. I think RD will be concerned about it. I know the village is concerned. So we'll just make it very clear.
And deep on a separate subject, if no one has any other comments about the notes here, I was looking at the lighting plan, so I see the area in which the light is at least 1 foot candle, then you have an area around that where it's at least a half a foot candle. What I didn't find on the plans, and maybe I missed it, is what's the maximum foot candles within that area that's lit by the bollards?
We didn't include it on the plans because there's not really any requirement for lighting here, but it's certainly very low, just given the nature of bollard lighting in general. They don't put out a lot of light. I would say, just kind of taking a professional guess based on similar light fixtures, it's probably 1.5 to 2 foot candles max.
Oh, okay.
It's not a very bright light source to begin with.
Less bright than I would have even thought it was. So, okay.
Yeah. And
It's really minimal. It's really just to provide a little light in the space and to add a little ambiance, maybe.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes.
Right.
Is almost mood lighting.
Right. Right. It's not. Okay.
Make them colored.
Any other comments or questions at this point, or we can take what we've gotten here tonight and work on moving towards a resolution?
Yes, I've started drafting one, and I'll now work with these proposed conditions as well, and hopefully hear from the county sometime.
Terrific. Anything else we can answer for you, do for you before we adjourn tonight?
Not exactly, but I do have a suggestion with the GML stuff for Harriman Business Park. We've got these relatively minor applications that come in periodically. And it seems like, and I know the county can have an agreement with the municipality to waive the review requirement for specific applications. And I would say anything that's a type 2 action in Harriman Business Park would be, you guys would be well served not having to wait for it. So I assume you have other project or other areas where you might like to facilitate things, perhaps having a discussion with the county about waiving that requirement for specific areas would be good for everyone.
What's your feeling about that, Ashley?
That is definitely an option that some municipalities do have. That typically they're not just for a specific location, but more for a specific type of project, so minor changes. We have one board, for example, that all single-family homes, no matter what, have to go to the planning board, and they're typically exempt from the county referral because, under the agreement, because they're minor review. So it's really, something that shouldn't be done in any haste. The board could consider whether such an agreement's something you want to do, and then talk to the county about that.
And you could send it to them. You can send anything to them, but what this would do is eliminate the waiting period and uncertainty.
Understood. Right, and it may be something that's worth a discussion sometime in the future of, is that something we want to pursue? What types of actions we want to pursue that in? And then we can, if we all agree, propose that up to the county and see if we can come to an agreement on that. Thank you.
Quite welcome. Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, we are back to the Birchtold subdivision. And as memory serves, so you're back from the ZBA now? And we're getting updated on that.
Yep.
If you'd please remind us who you are and bring us up to speed.
Sure. Caleb Pavelski from Peters Eckenfow Engineering and Surveying.
Clifford Birch Toll, property owner.
So just give a quick background of the project. This was originally an existing parcel, just a hair shy of 16 acres in total, in the OSR 3 region in the town of Monroe. You can see the western boundary is bounded by the Village of Monroe town line. What my client is proposing is to just do a 2-lot subdivision. There's already 2 existing homes on the property, and they share a driveway coming in. So we were just proposing to create a lot for one of the existing homes and have another separate lot for the other one. There is no proposed construction of any type on this job. Anything that would be proposed would be something further down the line. At this point, there's nothing proposed. When we had come to the board last in September, I remember the board had a few minor comments, basically to add the wetlands and to include a note saying that any proposed construction would include or would require a full wetland delineation. Those things have been added to the map, and then we were sent to the zoning board. Once we were sent to the zoning board, they looked over the plans. They felt it was acceptable. They granted variances in the areas of net lot area, lot width, rear yard, and lot coverage. In that same time period, we did hear back from the planning department. They said it was a local determination. So if it is feasible tonight, the plans look good to you guys. The zoning board meeting was actually a public hearing, and we only had one person from the public come, and it was just purely informational, just basically asking about their adjoining property. We'd like to ask if we can obtain final approval tonight.
So, just quickly, no, because this is a subdivision, you do need a public hearing,
Okay.
so you definitely can't have approval tonight.
Good try.
I had to try.
It's creative. Does the board want to go over, or should we start? Do you want to go over things first, or do you want us to start?
Sure, why don't you go ahead? You want to start, Ashley?
Sure, so this, where we left off with seeker, this is an unlisted action, and the board's doing an uncoordinated review, so you submitted a Part 1 EAF, but the board hasn't yet completed Part 2, so I don't know how this is I think the first time I've been here where one's come up, so I don't know if you, as a board, like to go over the Part 2 questions, or if you prefer that I prepare a proposed one for you to then review and go over that and change it as needed. It's really your preference. Different boards do it different ways.
Well, I believe this is the first time we're actually getting to that point in the last 2 years, since many of us have been on the board.
Okay.
So I'm not sure that we have a preferred methodology on that.
Okay.
At least for the current makeup of the board. So it's something we need to discuss a little bit and decide how we want to proceed. I guess while we're on topic with it, so does anyone have a particular feeling about that? Do they want to participate in the process of going through question by question, where we can bring up and identify issues? Is it something that we would like Ashley to prepare for us, and then we can discuss what she brings to us?
Sean, do you want to comment on that? Do you know what the board has done? Or would Mark want to opine on that?
Yeah, I to be honest, I don't recall what was done in the past, but Part 2, could be prepared by Ashley, and then you guys could review to see if you agree. I think that's the faster approach.
I mean, I agree. I think that is going to be the faster approach. I think certainly we're going to have an opportunity to weigh in on each of those things. And, honestly, I like the idea that it'd be prepared. We'd be able to review it prior to a meeting, do any research that we want before, so we can come up with our questions and then tackle what the issues are as we see them. So, anyone feel differently?
I believe that when Mike Donnelly was the attorney, I believe he prepared it and then reviewed it.
Okay.
I'm 90% that that's how it was done before.
Okay, so let's take that course of action in this situation. I think we would like the opportunity going forward just to review that with our sitting chair, because she may have a differing opinion on that, and we can re-review that for future decisions.
It could also depend on the application too. If something's more complex and may warrant, individual discussions. It depends.
Right, I understand that we're not committing to one course of action, but yeah, I think it would be good in this situation. Other comments, Ashley?
Sure, so I could prepare the part 2 then for your next meeting, and you will need to then issue a determination of significance, and it's not until that point that you could set a public hearing. You need to complete seeker first, so the earliest then that could be done would be, the public hearing could be set at your next meeting. It was referred to Orange County Planning already, correct?
Yes.
And you
I believe
have the
multiple
response?
times.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm sorry, are you saying that we would be able to take a look at the part 2 this
And then set
next,
public
this
hearing.
next Tuesday? Would
No, it's
it wouldn't be
not
right.
till the
It wouldn't be
21st.
until
The 21st.
Sorry, till the 21st, and then, assuming that we don't have any issues at that point, then we can set the public hearing.
yes,
following
depending
that.
on what
All
you,
right.
come down on seeker, you should be able to.
Yeah, so let's do that.
And then the next thing is that the application should be classified as a minor subdivision. Don't believe you've done that yet. A minor subdivision is anything containing not more than 4 lots on an existing street and not involving any new street or extension of facilities and consistent or not in conflict with zoning. So you had delayed making this determination because variances were needed in order to bring it in line with the zoning. On the plans, general note 3, if you could just add that a portion of the parcel is located in the ridgeline protection overlay. So it's shown on the plan, but just to have the note consistent. And then you will need a common driveway easement and maintenance agreement. So I do have a form I could give you that you could use and model
Fantastic.
that. And I believe that is it.
So that was a question I had. I actually had a chance, but since our last meeting, to go out to the property. I was out there this past weekend, and certainly seeing it live made it a lot more clear as to why you were asking for what you were asking for. My question was, so as long as we have the easement and the agreement, it can be one driveway that serves the 2 lots. It doesn't need to be designated as a private road and meet private road standards.
No, because this is an existing driveway that already leads to both structures.
Okay.
So if this was a new application, starting new construction, it would be a different story, and that would have to be a private road.
Okay, yeah, that's where a little my confusion was. Thank you.
Yeah, I believe we're calling it a pre-existing non-conforming shared access.
Any other
Ra-
comments,
rather
Ashley,
than a
before we move on to Sean?
No, nothing.
I need some clarification.
Please.
Okay, so if on the 21st, we get these things done, the public hearing can be set for the February meeting?
Yes.
And that would be a second meeting in February.
Would we do the public hearing at the 2nd or the 1st? The only reason is time frame, because you have so many days that I have to get it in the paper and they have to get the mailings out. And the meeting is the 21st, and the February meeting is the 13th. So it'd be tight. I'm fine. I could get it into the paper and they should be able to get the mailing out.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
we could
just
figure out, and
clarifying
even if for some reason we think more time, then it could always be the later.
I'm just trying to figure out the date-wise, because then the next meeting is the 18th. It's only 4 days apart, because
I think that you
The February
usually
are close
set them
together.
for for not the work sessions, if I
the
remember.
regular meeting.
I thought your public
hearings,
hearings
right?
typically, but it's the board's preference.
Okay, I can clarify. I just was looking
No,
at the
it's a good-
dates, trying to make
yeah.
sure that there was enough time to get everything out in the mail that had to be out. Unfortunately, you have to do another mailing.
All right. I'll let Terry know.
So lovely,
Sean?
maybe.
Sure. So just a couple things on the bulk table. The lot coverage for lot 1 still shows greater than 10% coverage.
Yeah, it's a typo.
Yeah, that should be less than. They added the wetland note. I just want to point that out to the board and see if they are okay with that. And the house relocation note was added. Those notes, I should say, were added. Some other things, that the planning board has to waive the well test requirements if they choose to do so. Since these are existing homes, I think it'd be appropriate. there should be, Mark suggesting that a note be added that indicates that any further subdivision of Lot 1, which is the bigger lot, should require a roadway, private roadway, well, I guess a roadway in general, because it could be public or private, to be developed to cause elimination of the non-conforming shared access drive, as depicted.
And I'm sorry, that was if proposed lot 1 is
With-
developed later on
To
down
be
the road.
Subdivided further, later, correct, yep. And then the planning board will also have to waive the topography if they so choose. We talked about SECR, and we talked about the GML, so that's all I have.
And when you say the board would have to waive the topography,
Yeah, it's my understanding that, for a subdivision, topography would have to be shown on a subdivision plan, so.
And I think you had, early on in the process, I think, discussed this, that you would be waiving the topography because there's no disturbance proposed.
Right.
It seems like a while ago, but I'm
Yeah.
yeah, I think we discussed it, I just don't think that we
waived it.
waived it, that we went through that.
Right.
And we could include that in any resolution ultimately at the end.
Okay, right, or we may want to just address those tonight as well. Board, any comments or questions? Did you have a chance to take a look at the resolution and decision of the ZBA and the updated plans? I mean, there's not much, in the way of conditions with that, other than coming back to us for, the ultimate approval. I thought I had read something, and I don't know whether it was in that resolution or part of the application materials, that said if proposed lot 1 was developed, that it wouldn't be through the access that exists now, that it would be from new access.
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe it was on the plans itself.
I think it's on the plan.
Yeah.
I think I read
I
it.
believe that was discussed at one of the first ones.
Right, right.
They just needed to add a note or something.
Yeah, it was actually supposed to add a note that further development will require, oh no, that was the wetlands, I'm sorry.
That was,
But
that was
yeah.
for the wetland.
A roadway,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
So I apologize if I missed it.
Double check for it.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but,
My notes had also had that
I don't think so.
from when Joe was here in September, that the planning board was going to help to craft that note about
Okay.
extinguishing the lot
Yeah.
driveway, so it could have been a mix.
Yeah, okay.
Is everyone comfortable with the way that the wetlands have been delineated in this situation and for this application? Anyone have any concerns about that? I think our purpose was to just get a general idea of where they were in relation to the rest of these existing conditions. So let's maybe tackle a few of these issues. So why don't we take a vote on designating this as a minor subdivision? Can I ask for a motion that we designate this 2-lot proposed subdivision as a minor subdivision?
I'll make a motion to designate this as a minor subdivision.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't know, why is that necessary to vote on? Isn't that apparent?
So it's in your code, it requires you to classify the subdivision as major or minor. It's just part of the procedures.
Okay, well, I'm for it.
Any noes? Any abstentions? Okay, the subdivision is minor. Sean mentioned the issue around well test requirements and whether we feel in this situation, since the wells are existing, there's no new building proposed, there's no changes in the use, that we want to waive that requirement. Anyone have any, first of all, thoughts or comments on that issue before we even consider a motion?
Do we know the water quality? Was there testing on that for any
California E. coli.
California E. coli?
Not that I'm aware of, but
I think
these
that would
are-
be in the best interest of the applicant and anybody who lives in that house to have that tested.
okay.
Could you just, for our benefit, for the rest of the board, explain a little bit more about what the purpose of that testing is?
So just to make sure that there's no just to conform to drinking water standards, minimum drinking water standards, to make sure that it's safe to drink. Sometimes when you have, you find that there's coliform E. coli, you can put in a UV treatment to, make sure that the water is safe to drink.
Right, it's a $30 test that you bring to a local lab to confirm that there is or isn't coliform or E. coli.
Sorry, do I understand correctly that part of the reason for this would be to, if proposed Lot 1 was sold off in the future, it would allow your daughter to continue to reside there, but that there might be possible future development of proposed Lot 1?
Possible.
Possible, that's
Right.
not for us right now.
That's not, I know that's not what we're looking at right now, but again, I thought I saw
The
that
other
was...
thing is that
right.
it's a septic system site with a septic system, right? Or are you a public sewer?
Septic.
Septic.
Yeah, so.
So it seems like for both the current residents and any
Future
possible
residents.
future residents, it might make sense to just perform that well testing.
Sure.
Anyone feel otherwise?
Is that a requirement for us to,
We would have to waive,
Waive?
we would have to waive the require, there is a requirement for a well test in this situation, but we do have the authority to waive it if we so choose.
and there are people living in both homes right now, right?
Yes.
Okay, I mean,
Sometimes people build up their immunities because they have, drinking water for a while, they may not realize it. So I think it's prudent because we don't know when the septic system was built and if it has been tested and the proximity to the well for $30, I think it's a high value.
okay. Well, I'm asking because I've been through this before, and, you can have minute colonies of coliform, and then you have to go through another couple of weeks to mitigate.
So I'm just looking now and just off the cuff here, and it looks like your well testing just deals with quantity versus quality, so that wouldn't have been something that would be required as part of the well testing. I think Sean's trying to confirm that as well, but, so the
This
well
is for a
tests that
minor
you'd be
subdivision,
waiving
though.
would be well tests that test for quantity, not for quality.
Yeah.
Which then becomes a different issue that we're examining, because we're saying, is there enough water to serve what's going to continue to be what has been? I mean, how long have all these dwellings and buildings been
We've
in?
had those same wells since 1959 and 1965, I think, and they've never had a problem.
If need be, I mean, we can make a condition that, if there's any proposed construction, that there would be well testing required. I mean, that probably is already a condition anyway.
I think it would already be
Yeah.
a condition based on the code.
Yeah.
But if it's merely a matter of testing quantity, then I would be willing to waive the requirement for well testing in this situation.
I agree.
I don't know if you want to wait so that we could confirm that, because I'm just looking at the code now quickly, I don't know.
And I think we'll have an opportunity to just double check the code, make sure that that's the issue one way or the other, and then concurrent with, our next meeting, when we're doing our, so actually, we could do that the same night that we go over the part 2 of the EAF.
Yes.
So then perhaps we should put that off until then. Let's clarify the issue and really just, determine, are we testing for quantity or are we testing for quality? Because I think that's two different waivers. Fair enough?
If we don't waive, if we eventually don't waive a well testing component, will that delay the public hearing process?
Not unless the well testing is something you'd want the public to have an opportunity to comment on. It shouldn't
Right.
it shouldn't delay that.
I mean, it would certainly wouldn't prevent us from opening the public hearing.
No, exactly.
And Sean also mentioned the issue of showing topography on the plans. Do we want to consider waiving that in this situation where, again, no disturbances at all are being proposed here? It's really creation of a new lot.
Yeah.
How does everyone feel about that?
I'm okay with that, but maybe some spot elevations to show where high points or low points are would be helpful.
Going back to the well testing, from what I see in, 65.8L, the groundwater supply tests that are required are just for quantity, not for quality. So there is no, from what I see in this section of the code, there is no quality requirement.
I mean, I think if it's not going to hold us up, I'd like to have an opportunity to just re-examine that question at our next meeting. Hopefully Bonnie will be here, get her input on that, and then we can move forward with that. It's not going to slow us down from moving forward with the public hearing or really the process in general. It just might be something that needs to be done concurrently with everything else we're doing. From having been out on the property, there's very little topographic. I mean, it's not football field flat, but it's a fairly flat piece of property. There are no notable topographical features that I think elevation points are even going to demonstrate for us.
Is the first floor above grade?
First floor.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right on both homes it
Yes.
was. Yeah. And the barns everything is above grade as far as that goes. Any other thoughts on that? So would we like to take up considering waiving topographical features on this site plan in this case? Would somebody like to make a motion in that effect?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Would somebody like to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, if we can have a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, so we're waiving topographical features. One less thing to worry about. So I think we see where we are in the process at this point.
And there's no site grading, right?
No,
No tree removal, no landscaping?
no construction of any type. No proposed disturbance or anything. Purely just
Adding a new invisible line.
Yep.
Right. Any questions we can answer for you at this point? Any concerns you have based on what we discussed tonight?
So those updated, I guess, those minor little map revisions we would have to submit those for the next workshop meeting that would be on, you said February 13th? That would be when we
Middle
can.
date is, hold on, let me look at
I think that could wait until the public hearing. Minor revisions, additions and notes, I think that could wait till the public hearing.
Yeah,
that's
that's basically my
middle
question.
date's the same for both meetings per
Right.
month. So if this is all going to be done in the February, then the submittal is January 30th
January 30th is a submittal. Okay.
at noon.
I'm just trying to expedite it so we
No, I
can
know.
Yeah.
get this out the door.
But does that time frame work for you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Did we,
Have more?
did you set the public hearing?
We can't set the public hearing until we,
Oh, my apologies.
right? So I didn't miss a...
No, that's correct.
Okay. Our next item is we're going to be going back and looking at the project on Raywood Drive. Good evening. Again, if you could remind us who you are and bring us up to date on any changes.
Larry Toro, Civil Tech Engineering.
Joel Mann, on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, and what are we reviewing this evening?
Okay, the last time we were before the board, we had about 5 or 6 different concepts that we reviewed. And I believe we came down to the conclusion to go with this 3-lot subdivision. And with that, there was 1 or 2 issues that came up, but the main issue was being frontage on an actual town road. So the right-of-way, as we discussed, had existed, but what we're proposing is shown on the plan is actually building a tail, for lack of a better term, within that right-of-way, so that what's shown is the 3rd lot, Lot 3, would actually have road frontage on ultimately what would be an approved part of the roadway. And pretty much the minor other items that came up, that we had reduced it down, it's shown now as a single-family residence. We've taken away the concept of the duplexes, and the one other issue that come up about with the two back units being blocked by the front lot, the front unit, the front dwelling. So now that's been narrowed, so theoretically, there is no overlap between the buildings in the rear and the one in the front.
So a question about that. So ultimately, I guess from a code standpoint, it's Ben who would be able to tell us, does this satisfy that requirement of rear lots? And we've kind of talked about this a number of times as we've been looking at this application. Have we gotten anywhere as far as any certainty?
Not as far as the new proposal. So when we last spoke at the last meeting, the board indicated they wanted Ben to take a look because it's changed now. Where the dwellings are actually located on the lots is different. But Ben, we reached out to him and he's going to wait until there was a new submittal. So now that there is, we could show him the actual engineering plan and then he'll be able to weigh in on that.
Okay, so we don't have a final indication of that one way or the other. So I understand we went from duplexes to single-family dwellings, but the size, like the footprints, the size of the buildings are the same as what had been proposed?
Yes, as discussed last month, yeah. And the other thing was, I think we're waiting for a clarification from the highway department about this tail on the road. And I'm not sure if this was, we submitted something to the planning board. I'm not sure if a copy went to the highway department for review. If this was one of what the board requested to do.
I did not send anything to John Charney, to be honest. I don't recall, and taking vacation doesn't help.
Something about that.
I was sending the plans to John?
Based on the last meeting, that the discussion was that after the new submission, this will go to Ben for clarification for the rear dwelling and to the highway department about adding this tail to the cul-de-sac. So he can clarify that he has any objection or any comments on that.
So I see a cover letter actually from you from December. It looks like you had sent them to the highway department directly.
Dated December 26th?
Okay, might be that my office delivered that. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought...
Yeah, I think it was a clarification, so everything was submitted then. Okay, no, you're right. Yep.
But you haven't heard anything from the highway?
I haven't heard anything yet. So the question is if we are getting, between now and the planning board meeting, and the next week, is there another meeting on this month?
21st.
Okay, so if we were getting something from the building department and from the highway department, if the board is willing to look in more in detail, then we can move on this, so we can get the more completed set of plans for review.
Yeah, there's a big thing with that proposed road extension. We definitely need to hear from the highway department, and also, have you spoken to the town board at all as far as, so this is a town road, correct? So they would need to accept dedication if it's going to be basically an extension of a town road. So whether the town wants to do that, that's something.
There's no dedication here. It's already dedicated.
So this is in a existing.
It's an existing right of way.
Existing right of way.
Yes.
Okay.
As per
It's an
You have to
extension
see
of
as
the
far as
existing road.
whether you're able to improve in that existing right of way, or if it needs any approval from the town board. But if there was a prior dedication at some point, it would probably be clear from that.
Yeah, this was we clarified the last one. The discussion was that we probably only need highway department approval and okay for this, and nothing from the town board. So.
Okay, well, if that's what the town board and the highway department say, then that's just the answer that we'll need before we could really move forward.
So I think we need the feedback from the highway superintendent.
And from the building inspector.
Of course. And then a matter of if John is amenable to the extension, then we just have to kind of run it past the town board attorney to say, hey, is this something that the town board needs to take up? Mm-hmm. Right, which might.
Okay, so John is going to get back to me on the extension of the cul-de-sac? Is what I'm looking for,
yes,
John.
Correct.
And Ben is regarding the lot 2?
It's both
the buildings in front.
I could send it to Ben because I've spoken to him about it before.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
So I'm getting confused tonight. Sorry.
Okay, so with what we're seeing now that it's been changed to single-family homes, based on the feedback from some of our other town resources. Any thoughts on the plan as currently proposed from the board? Any questions about that we want to cover tonight?
Maybe a simple question here. Am I reading this right? Lots 1 and 3 are 3,500 square feet per floor? Or is that
Yes.
per house?
No, that's basically the flat per floor. And as explained last month, it's the original plan was to do a duplex, and it was
Right.
like basically 2 levels. Now the plan is basically to do a split level, let's we call it, more like a flat. That's more attractive in the market in the last couple of years.
Kind of house I live in, just not that big.
Could it be explained a little bit better on the plans?
Going forward, we will probably do some plans. It's basically waiting indication on the lot layout and to get some clarification so we can move on, more detailed design.
Under general notes, it's still listed as a 2 dwelling units, 1 duplex. It's proposed on lots 3, and then
Yeah, we'll fix that.
Is the property relatively flat?
It's sloping, going from the front is the highest point to the rear, going down to the rear. And as indicated that I'm actually working the next property on the left side. There is a proposed development there, and we'll coordinate the grading once we're working on the grading to make sure to avoid retaining walls and have some common grading plans.
And the lot to the, well, basically to the northeast of that, that's in the town of Palm Tree is,
Yes.
oh, sorry, northwest, thank you.
This is basically surrounded from all the 3 sides with the town of Palm Tree, village of Kirishol.
Right. Was that already developed, that lot to the
No, not
northwest?
yet.
Not
It's,
yet. That's also proposed? Okay.
Yeah.
Right, it was asked that we show what was being proposed, and that's why it's shadowed in there.
Right, I thought it wasn't, but I just want to make sure I was remembering the right. This wasn't where there would be a retaining wall along, well, what is the border between Monroe and Palm Tree, again, to the northwest?
There is
But there
There's
is a, but
proposed,
that, okay, so I'm remembering that right.
What we didn't, like we said at that time, we didn't finalize our grading. We tried to incorporate it and avoid the retaining wall, and I think we can, it's doable.
It was a thought at one point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just have a minor question. Since this property is surrounded on 3 sides by the other municipality, on the left side of the property it says Town of Palm Tree, and the right side it says Village of Curious Joel. We know that, but maybe...
At that time, when we did the survey, when we started, it was actually like this. The left side was only in town of Palm Tree, not in the village of Kirishol. It was recently, this was basically the 56 acres were added after the fact, and
Yep.
and now it's actually in village of Kirishol too, so we will correct that.
Okay.
It's in both.
Got me confused. And I should know.
It's more political. It's more like a political question.
Anything else for this evening?
I've got a couple things.
Thank you.
Lot 3, the average of the front and rear yard width don't meet the 150. I think that can be easily.
I think you're right. There is a small,
very small.
Yeah, I noticed that, and we'll fix that.
Yep.
It's 0.3. 0.03.
We already got the general note that it's 2 dwellings, 2 dwelling units. The drawings are numbered 1 of 3 and 2 of 3.
Yes, we could change. Originally, we had talked about this, that the third sheet was a grading plan, utility plan. But we said we'd just do this before we develop full plans.
Okay.
Ultimately, there'll probably be more than 3 sheets.
Yeah, right, yeah, with details.
Details and whatnot,
Right.
correct.
There's 2 notes on sheet 2. The lower note, I'm not sure that's necessary to be on the plan. The upper note to the right, that should probably be confirmed by the building inspector about the unroofed deck is not part of a building.
I will check on that again. We got a letter from the building inspector about recently when we did the 2 units, the duplex. I think in that letter he clarified that, but we can check on that.
So we take the note.
Yeah.
We already got the highway super to propose, or to review the proposed extension, the building in front issue, and then, yeah, that's it.
Excuse me, Sean, what was the issue with the lower note?
I don't know if that's necessary to be on the plans.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure nobody thought it was existing or under construction or...
Oh, okay, okay.
And I'm sorry, again, just for my clarity. So with the extension of the road, we're really just talking about adding kind of like a stub off of the existing cul-de-sac. It's not going to change the dimension of the cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac is going to remain the way it is.
Correct.
Section of curb to be removed and asphalt to be extended.
Right.
And the main reason for that, again, was because the issue of a 288 possibly came up without having frontage on the road. So we said we would extend the road to make that go away.
So we solved that by making a road. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so I think we know what we need to get clarified on, and then we can move into the detailed phase.
Once we have this. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
We made it fast, so we can all go to sleep.
Well, we're not quite there yet, but. Good night. Good night. Good night. Now we have a couple of miscellaneous items that came to us just recently. So the first one that we're going to just talk about a little bit is we received a lead agency notice from the Village of Monroe regarding something that they're reviewing called the 208 Business Center site plan.
Jeff, quickly, I am an alternate member on the Village Zoning Board of Appeals, and I will be recusing myself from the Town Planning Board's discussions in the event I am asked to sit in on the Village Zoning Board of Appeals hearing.
Okay.
Do I need to leave the
You
room?
could go
or
sit on the, just
hang out
sit
with
off
board?
the dais.
So tonight we're looking at the issue of, what our reaction is to them naming themselves as lead agency. Is it something that, I guess I need a little clarity on this. So when we're receiving this notification, is it, because we're an involved party, we also have the opportunity to declare for lead agency?
So you could object to their intent to be lead agency for the project if you wanted to be lead agency. You have 30 days to do that from when you get the notice. The project, you're an involved agency because there is a portion of a drainage pipe that's going to be located on land in the town, so that's going to require site plan approval, I believe they had said. And also it looks like it's going to require a wetlands permit, so they don't have that in their notice, but I think we should probably reach out to them and let them know that's another approval that is going to be required. But primarily the development, it's all, other than that, it's in the Village of Monroe. So you could, if you want to object, or if you want to consent, or if you want to do nothing, then it just they've become the lead agency.
Anyone have any concerns about the Village Planning Board acting as lead agent on the seeker for this project?
This is totally in the village boundaries.
Again, with the exception of this drainage that's going to, well, that would be really through the town park property at Orange and Rockland.
It's going into the Orange and Rockland Lake, so there's a drainage pipe that's then crossing over property that's located in the town that would require a site plan and wetlands permit.
So assuming we had no objections, assuming that the Village Planning Board, what kind of input does that give us in the process at that point?
So you'll
Any?
be kept informed as it goes through the seeker process, so you'll get copies of all the submissions and everything like that.
Because we're involved
You'll be
anyway.
able to comment on any environmental impact statement, so you'll be kept aware of all that, so your comment will be...
I was just going to say that Rockland County's offering a course on at the end of the month. No, it just, this will dovetail into the other miscellaneous items. Noreen had reminded us that Rockland County is putting on a presentation for secret review for educational units, so.
Well, that'll.
Would we be considered an involved agency?
You're an involved
Yeah.
agency, yes.
So Bonnie saw these when she stopped by the office yesterday and had me email everybody out. And I have the one set of plans that were sent to us. If anybody would like to look at them while we're sitting here. But what Bonnie felt was that we would just be receiving paperwork as they were moving forward and kept on top of everything that happens. And, excuse me, as any information came in, it would be emailed out to all of you upon arrival. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as it involves agency, as we're kept in the loop on this, and as there's going to be a small portion of this that we're going to have to determine on, I think it's fine that it stays with the village planning board. Is everyone in general agreement with that?
I agree.
I agree.
Yes.
It's not something we need to make a motion on, I assume, only if we...
You can, you don't need to. If you were going to object, then that would be something you'd need to notify
Right.
them of. But if you don't object, then they're just going to be deemed, they'll be able to assume lead agency status.
No, I think we can just leave that as a discussion point, and as long as we're not objecting, that we'll just move to our next item.
Now, do I let them know that they want to receive everything, or just because they're already involved?
So as an involved agency, they should,
Okay,
they will.
so I don't have to do anything with Debbie.
So we'll just wait a moment for Jason to rejoin us.
Good answer.
So we were also notified, again, I believe this week, of a cell phone tower project that is, have an application already into the ZBA. In relation to that, once it's through the ZBA process, assuming that the ZBA grants their approvals, it would be coming to us, and my understanding is that in this situation, Ashley, there is something referred to as the shot clock, because it's a public utility, and I don't know if it's in particular to the cell phones, that there is a escalated time frame in which we must take action on. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So it's in federal law, the Telecommunications Act, and it requires for an application like this, which is for a new cell tower, it would require action to be taken within 150 days of when the application's complete. So right now, the application is not complete because they have not submitted a formal planning board application, but also there's various things missing from what they submitted that you would require as a planning board, such as a visual analysis, things like that. So the shot clock, basically, again, it's a 150-day period for this board or the ZBA to take action on the application, and that doesn't start to run until the application's complete. So we just have to notify the applicant as far as what's missing and what's required to make it complete, and that way they could submit a complete application. I don't know that you've had any of these before you in the past, but...
Not in the last 2 years. Anthony?
Okay.
Lisa, have you dealt with this yet?
I don't think so.
Have you had do you know if anyone that was maybe here when there was one, did you have a consultant hired? A wireless engineer?
Councilwoman Bingham was around when there was a proposed cell tower for right around here, actually.
Highway Department.
Right, the highway department.
Okay,
Didn't
yeah.
meet the fall zone requirements, because it had to be, I think, 125 feet away from the home.
Speak into the mic, please.
Thank you, George.
But it was.
Yeah, there is a fairly recent one. I mean, I remember it, and not for nothing.
14.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So it is a unique type of application. I would definitely recommend that the board consider hiring a wireless engineer as a consultant to assist you with this process. Things are changing always, and new orders are coming down, and it's good to have someone that's very familiar with all of that. So
Do we know where this is?
it's in the
Yeah, it's
on the Village of
in,
Harriman.
so where it is as you're heading up towards Target, if you didn't make the left into the, Harriman Business Park,
townhouses.
and you went to the townhouses, if you make the right on the ring road, past the first or second building is the lot where their water tower is. And they're proposing on putting it on the lot where the water tower is, actually between the road and the water tower. So tucked back into that space. It's kind of a high point in that area of the town, relatively, for high points in a low area.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
This has not been heard by the ZBA yet, because it just met submittal for their January meeting.
So they'll be reviewing this later this month.
They won't get it, yeah, they received their email on it. Their meeting is January 28th, I believe. And that'll be their first opportunity to look at this. So they submitted 2 packets to me. One they addressed to Bonnie, and one they addressed to the ZBA, but they only did an application for the ZBA in both packets. So I've now since sent them the full application for the planning board and told them that they were gonna have to submit that as well, because there is a letter from Ben within this pretty packet that I didn't want to take apart.
Yeah, I did have a chance to browse through that. One thing I just mentioned when we're reviewing that, when their entity disclosure form comes into us, it's an entity owned by 2 entities, but it doesn't drill down to the point of who the ownership of those entities are. But I think the way the entity disclosure law reads, we need to know who the individuals are.
Well, it's Verizon.
Yep.
That's like 40 million people.
No,
Stockholders.
but it's Orange County Poughkeepsie Limited Partnership is doing business as Verizon Wireless. The Orange County Poughkeepsie Limited Partnership is owned by 2 entities that I think were also both LPs. I forget off the top of my head. But we still need to know who the partners are,
Gotcha.
because I'm a stickler on that. So just something as they're turning in the application package for the planning board. Now, is the ZBA under a similar compunction to move at an
So it's
escalated
all,
rate?
yeah, it's the whole project together. So that's why it's important, and I think this is why Bonnie also wanted it to come before you right away, because this board should really be starting their review even as it goes through that ZBA process. So it's going to require a use variance from the ZBA, but that's a different standard because it's a cell tower, public utility. It's a different standard than the typical use variance test. So it's not impossible to satisfy, in other words. I think it's also going to need some area variances because the height is 67 feet, and I believe it's 50 feet in this district, and also the front yard setback. So that's something the ZBA will hopefully, or we'll let them know, look at as well while it's before them. So again, I think the board, it would benefit you to continue reviewing this and as it proceeds before the ZBA. And again, I'd recommend a wireless consultant, and we've used one in the past. I could recommend if you don't have anyone in mind. Other than that,
What do we think about?
I have a question.
Yeah.
When does the 150 days start again?
so it starts from when the application, the way it's worded is it starts from when the application's submitted, when a complete application's submitted.
Complete,
So
thank you.
they submitted it yesterday. Once we notify them that it's not a complete application, then it tolls the time. So until they
Okay.
will submit a complete one.
Thank you.
But complete application to us then starts 150 days. Or a complete application to the ZBA, that's where I'm.
So it's tricky because it's on this concurrent path, so it's really an overall complete application is the best way to look at it. It's going to require all elements, so.
If the planning board had to hire another consultant, would we have to go through a vetting process for procurement? or-
No, because it's a professional type specialty that typically it should be exempt from your procurement policy.
I should check with the town on that one, but I just can't think of any names off the top of my head right now.
We've worked with Mike Musso of HDR Engineering, and he's done a lot around here in Woodbury, Warwick, a lot. He's very good and very easy to work with. He's very busy as well, so I don't even know whether he'd be available, but if you wanted a proposal, I would recommend him. Another thing just about the shot clock, this 150 days, it's not something that would result in a default approval. It's something that if you got to that point where it's 150 days, that would allow the applicant to then go into court and force you to take some action. So it's important to draw that distinction where it's not a default approval or anything like that. But it is still very important to follow that.
Right, so because of that potentially accelerated time frame alone, I mean, it sounds sensible to look into the idea of getting an expert and a wireless consultant. So yes, if you could pass that along to us.
Mike Musa, I could give
And
you
that
the
cost is
contact.
picked up by the applicant, right?
Yes.
Right, I mean, I think if we had handled a number of these in the past, you know, as the current board, it would be one thing. Maybe, you know, maybe we would have built up enough in-house expertise. But since this is the first time any of us, the 6 or soon to be hopefully 7 of us are looking at this, all the more important in this case. One other thing before we get to the minutes, we just wanted to, I guess, mention, so Eagle View is going to be going before the ZBA, and we will, of course, have an opportunity if we want to provide any feedback to the ZBA before Eagle View gets to them. It's something we can discuss at our next meeting, but we did want to just kind of remind everybody of that, and so that everyone has an opportunity over the next just under 2 weeks to take a look over those plans again, if there's any concerns, issues that we want the ZBA to have, comments that we want to make as part of any submission to them, then we should have that conversation at our regular meeting. Right? We have minutes for tonight? We have no minutes for tonight.
No.
Cool. All right, so minutes.
Let's go home.
Let's go. Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn then?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.